Hello YouTube, PsychoFox here. Today we're going to start this video, a little bit of a restoration project on this American Super Nintendo. It's going to be a bit of an extreme restoration because it's missing a few things, but that's because I've taken them out. But the main problem is, the back corner of this is completely missing. I knew that when I bought it, because I wanted a little bit of a challenge. The console's untested. I've tested the fuse and it works, so I'm hoping the board is alright. Everything looks good inside. Yeah, but you've got all this damage. You're missing the whole corner there, and the long bit that goes along there. And also, to top it all off, inside, pretty much all but two of the standoffs have snapped off inside. So obviously if this thing was dropped from some height in the past, it's just shook it, and this bottom piece, the plastic is really brittle, so obviously the shockwave has just sheared all the standoffs off and smashed this corner to pieces. I've got a little bag of scraps that I sort of found rattling around inside it, but there's nothing to really reconstruct that with. It's also got a bit of a chip there, you can see. There's a little chip there by the power LED as well. So hopefully I'm going to get some JB Weld and sort that bit out, because I couldn't find the chip for that. But for this bit here, what I'm going to do is I've got some ABS plastic, exactly the same plastic, and this is off an old Amstrad printer. So I've sort of drawn out this corner piece, marked it out, so I'm going to be cutting that out, and that will provide the new corner piece for this. You can sort of see roughly. I mean, the colour's right, but that doesn't really matter because I'm hoping to respray it anyway. So that corner piece is gonna replace this top bit here. This little patterned piece at the bottom is gonna have to be done separately. So I'm gonna go and cut that out, and we'll see if we can shape that into place, shape that into something that's gonna fit, glue that into place, and then we're gonna use a bit of JB Weld to hopefully fill any gaps and reconstruct this bottom piece. So right, let's get started cutting out that old printer casing. Okay, so I dremeled that plastic piece off the old printer casing, and it fits quite nicely. Just needs a few gaps filling with JB Weld, and that will also help to anchor it in place to the old plastic. I'm not going to be able to reproduce that sort of wave-like detailing on the bottom, because it's actually sort of forms a nice flat base for the top of the printer here, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. I mean, it's no big deal, it's going to look a lot better than it did before. So as you can see, the colour match isn't too bad, but what I'm going to do is, once it's all patched up, I'm going to respray the bottom grey, similar colour to the top, which it should have been originally, but it's obviously sun faded. So I'll just give a little look inside. I've got the board out over there. So it's not a bad fit. Needs a few gaps filling up. The match there's slightly off. There's a little bit of a jump there, but that shouldn't be too much trouble. Yeah, as you can see, so we got one standoff snapped off there, one there, one there, one there, one there. That one's partially snapped, that one's cracked. So I've got all the pieces of them. These have all snapped off in one piece. They're just going to be glued back down with ABS glue. So yeah, it's not looking bad. I've just got this sellotaped in place at the moment. So already, just aesthetically, that's looking a lot nicer. So yeah, next step, let's get some JB Weld and let's secure it all in place. Okay guys, so here's just a little shot with the board in place, just to show you that all the ports, they fit in that little section there at the back. So that's quite nicely framed by this new replacement piece of plastic. And it all sits flush, and yeah, it's looking a lot better already. So obviously I've overcut with the Dremel slightly, you can see there, and a bit there, but that'll be a bit of JB Weld will fill them in, and I'll use that to patch the little chip on the front by the LED as well. So yeah, for now it's looking good, but shortly it'll be looking a lot nicer. So right, let's finish the job with some JB Weld. Okay, so I've decided, although this might I mean, it looks a lot better than it was, but it's always going to bother me that this detailing doesn't match this. So I've decided if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it as near to the original as I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Dremel off this bottom portion, and with some JB Weld, I'm going to make an impression of this sort of wave detail on the bottom of the Super Nintendo case, and I'm going to reverse it and hopefully place it along the bottom here to replicate the detail. So I'm not sure how well this is going to work, but yeah. So I think before I commit to cutting this bottom portion off, I'm just going to do try and make the mould. I'm going to do that on this corner here, and then reverse it so it'll be the mirror image for the other side. So let's cut a bit of JB Weld and let's see if this actually is something that could work. Okay, so it turns out actually putting this stuff against the plastic of the Super Nintendo isn't a good idea because it adheres to it quite quickly. So then I put some cling film over the Super Nintendo and tried to press this down to make a mould of the wavy pattern, but again the mould wasn't really defined enough. So what I ended up doing was getting some JB Weld and just sort of simulating the little ridges with a little lollipop stick there, and I've just hung it over here to get the right angle. This will probably wind up being a bit too long, so I'll probably have to trim this eventually to get it to fit. But yeah, I mean, it looks okay. I think when it's all sort of in situ and all spread a uniform colour, it's going to look a lot better than it does at the moment. So I'm just going to wait for this to cure, and then we'll get on with patching up the hole. Okay, so you can see I made a bit of progress. What I ended up doing was forgetting the little bit of JB Weld. I sort of used the lollipop stick to make these little ripple effects here. I decided to go back to actually using the actual moulding on the Super Nintendo. But what I did was, because the JB Weld just sticks to this like nobody's business, I just wet it very slightly with water with my finger first, and that stopped it sticking to it. So using that, I was able to get a mould of the ripple effect. I've also cut a bit of ABS plastic there, and I've just fixed that in with JB Weld, and hopefully when it's dry this will be pretty solid. The piece of ABS plastic from the printer, I've trimmed the bottom off it, so now that will fit like so. So it'll give a good sort of overall impression of a Super Nintendo's little gap there that'll need filling. But obviously it'll be the wrong colour, so I'm going to respray the bottom. It's pretty discoloured anyway. So what I'm going to do next is, you can see the discoloration there, that's what it should look like. So what I'm going to do next is use a bit more JB Weld to reinstate these standoffs, because there's quite a few that snapped off. And I'll also put in a different video a little mod I've done to power the US Super Nintendo using a Sega Mega Drive 1 power supply, which is very useful. So yeah, let's leave this part to dry. I'll fix the standoffs, then we'll get this part in place and then respray the whole thing. Okay, so I've repaired that little bit of chip plastic by the LED there. I'll take a little tour of what I've done. Up front standoff, you see I marked them with their position. Front right, front left, I've just blobbed some around the bottom, and the aesthetics isn't really important. This is going to be hidden away on the interior anyway. That short little standoff there has been done, that one there. The back right, this one, which is the back left, obviously that would have sat on the plastic piece of plastic that's missing, so it's going to have to not have a back right, back left standoff. It should be right, just perched up ones that are there. That one was a little bit cracked, so I've just reinforced that a bit. That one's snapped off, but those pieces are missing. So on the whole, I'm pretty happy how it's looking at the moment. So I'm just going to wait for that corner to dry, and then we'll put that piece, that that piece in place, and it should look a lot better than before. So I've still got a few little bits left over here, but yeah, they're too small to really bother sticking in place. So yeah, let's carry on and get this thing looking as good as it can. Right, so it looks a bit rough and ready at the moment. I've just got it flipped over and all held in place by JB Weld. So when this is dry, I'm going to get a fine paper and sand it off, and hopefully we should be left with something looking quite nice. It doesn't look too bad at the moment already, but hopefully when it's finished you shouldn't really at first glance be able to tell the difference. So yeah, let's get this give this a bit more time to dry, and then we'll try and sand it off, make it look a bit more presentable. Okay, so I've sanded everything down, and I'm pretty pleased how it's actually come out. So obviously you can see a bit of a join here before it's sprayed. I mean, it's not perfect. That little corner there has turned up very slightly. That last little bit of detailing there has turned up very slightly. But yeah, I've also repaired the whole lip around, because I mean this plastic is so brittle. I mean all the lips smashed off as well. So you can see all the repairs I've done there. So yeah, not perfect. And there's the bottom. So I think it's pretty good approximation as to what was there before. I mean the bottom of this case was missing about 10% of the plastic. So it's a lot nicer than what was there before. So now I've got that rubbed down, it's just the respray and then we'll reassemble. Okay, so I've got everything finished and put back together. I'm pretty pleased with it. I've sort of gone for a bit of a darker grey. It was the closest one I can find. It's very hard to find a light grey, but this grey actually matches the eject button pretty well, so I'm quite pleased with it. And it was actually from Wilko's. It was £4 for one spray can. It's sort of Wilko's own make matte primer, so that's the price is right and it's quite easy to find. So yeah, it's not bad. You can see a bit of distortion. That's just a bit where I touched up a chip on the top case. I've not blended that in yet. So this is where the main repair was on this side. So it's not perfect, but it's a damn sight better than it was. That's to be fair. I've just got to stick the rubber foot back on. I've actually got the rubber foot for that. So it's a lot better than it was. At first glance, from a distance, you probably wouldn't even notice. So yeah, really pleased with how this turns out. This has turned out. It took a bit of work, but it looks a lot nicer, and I've got rid of that horrible yellowing as well. So if I just flip it over, you can see I've sprayed this little expansion port cover as well. If I just turn that over, that's the colour grey it should be on the bottom, but obviously I've gone for a little bit darker, but it's still quite a nice shade. So yeah, this Super Nintendo, you will be seeing it again because it does have issues. Done all that cosmetic repair work and it turns out the board has issues. I've got power to it, but no, it's not producing a video signal. So yeah, there's a few little capacitors missing on the board, so I'm going to get them replaced and we'll see, we'll go from there. But yeah, that's the end of this little extreme restoration, so hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.